I'm trying to adjust this thing. 'Cause, Alright, so basically, I am lying down. I'm going to tell you. Okay, so basically, what I'm going to say to you is about your health. What has happened to me? What has happened to me that causes me to be not as strong as I was when I was real strong? I don't know if anyone is aware of the location on Cooper Avenue, where where the tire shop is and the motorcycle is. And, even Motor Girl had taken over the shop that used to be Celtic Cycles. You could look it up. You can look it up. Look it up on the Google. Celtic Cycles, Cooper Avenue in Brooklyn. Type in the most. It has the most radiation in all of New York City. It might have said the most radiation in all of the USA. It might have said the most radiation in all of Brooklyn. And they put metal plates on the ground because of it. And before they had metal plates, I mean real thick metal plates. And before they had metal plates, they didn't have metal plates. So obviously that means I was working there before the metal plates and after, during the metal plates. And there, well, I don't think that place is still open. I think they must have moved their location, but I don't see. They had a bodega. It's not really a deli, but okay, we can call it a deli because it was sort of a deli. It was more of a bodega. They didn't. They had. Because I'm saying it as I see it in my mind. So I'm saying have, and I don't like to use the word have because I like to think if a place existed, that they exist. That's the way I like to see it. Like if something has existed, that they exist. I don't. There's no need to use the word past tense, except if I'm talking about it as if they don't exist anymore. They do exist. They moved their location, but they don't exist in that spot, so they still exist. And so they make like rice, and they make beans and rice or chicken. And, so in that way, it's not really a deli because they made a minimum of sandwiches, but they did make sandwiches, so it is a deli, but a bodega deli. And they had okay prices on the stuff. For some reason, the price of orange juice had shot up during the time that place existed, and it had the price of orange juice had really shot up a lot. Because orange juice, a lot of you people don't know this, but orange juice used to be hell cheap. I mean, real cheap. Um, in the 1960s, you could buy a little tiny 10 ounce. They don't even show this on Google or anywhere. They used to sell these um, 6 ounce orange juice containers for 10 cents each. Back in the 60s, people used to eat small amounts of food. Everybody was skinny, and they used to sell these. I think they were 10 ounces. Yeah, 10 ounces, and they were 10 cents each one. And you could buy they came in a 6 pack, and if you bought a 6 pack, it was probably the same price because they were already cheap to begin with, and they didn't have discounts like that in the 60s because they would just keep selling it for the price that they cost, and so it wasn't like you get 6 of them for less. You just end up buying a 6 pack because the 6 pack was all wrapped up together and it was sealed. And if you bought them individually, they would just take them apart and have them inside the refrigerator. But things were different, priced differently before 1974, and packaging was different before 1974. And potato chips were way cheaper before 1974, and so was all the chips. And they had chips in the 60s that don't exist anymore, that they don't really sell. That so everything was packaged differently. A large package of potato chips, everything in the potato chip bag was tightly sealed. When you bought a small package of potato chips, keep in mind in the 60s I was like 2 or 3 years old. I wasn't an adult, so maybe 3. I was 5 years old. I wasn't an adult. I wasn't even in nursery school. I was just, 4 years old, 3 years old, 2 years old, 1 years old. So anyway, basically, you get potato chips, and the bag was full, and the size of the bag had potato chips in the bag, and the bag was full. And a large one, the bag was tight. But then later on, they came up with this BS where you get a large bag. This is like a big thing with the change. And if you were around then, you would have been confused. So what they actually did was they had a small bag of potato chips for 5 cents. Since I'm on this topic, these are topics that I run through in my head, and I never say it out loud because I believe that running it through your head is the same as saying it out loud. I didn't always believe that, but I found out it's true. I found it to be true. I didn't find out that it's true because no one else has that concept. But I found it to be true in general. So then anyway, I'm telling you something that I never told anyone out loud. Because who the hell would care about this except for me? So basically, in the 1960s, small bag of potato chips was 5 cents, and a large bag of potato chips was 10 cents. And those were the question becomes: is the large bag the family bag? No, the family bag size they had, and I was just a little kid, so I was barely old enough to crawl to the store. So the small one and the large one were the ones you take snack on, and the family size one was the larger size one, which wasn't super large. And that was like, I don't know, 59 cents. And how much larger was it than the large individual serving one? Well, here's how it goes, how the prices went up. This is the tricky part. They got rid of the small bag of potato chips. This is how they raised the prices. And so what I'm going to say to you is insane. The small bag was 5 cents, and the large bag was 10 cents. So what they did was they got rid of the small bag completely obliterated it, and then they used the large bag because they had made so many bags. Back in the 60s, people used to stockpile things. So they already had the large bag. And the large bag size still used to this day, the size that used to be a large bag and the small bag. And what they did was they changed the price of the bag of potato chips by making it look like you were getting more chips. So they got rid of the small bag, and the large bag became the small bag. And so how they did that was as sneaky, because they ended up removing chips from the bag. So originally, they still use that process today to make the product smaller. So what they did was, the large bag used to be 10 cents, right? So they made the large bag into the small bag, and they changed the price of the large bag from 10 cents to 15 cents, and that's 1/3 higher. And then within a very short period of time, within a year or less, they made it 20 cents, and then they made it 25 cents, and that happened within a 3-year period. And basically, it might have happened right away, because they didn't change that in the 60s. In 1974, food prices and packaging changed. And I could be wrong about how long it took to change. They might have went straight from 10 cents to 25 cents overnight. But what happened was, if it didn't go from that price to that price overnight, and then when they changed it to 15 cents, they might have been just using the packaging to help them increase the price. buy, they might have changed it to 15 cents and put less chips in it, or they might have changed it to 25 cents and left it full. Now I was too young to remember which one they did, because as you can imagine, I was very young and very small in the late 60s. I didn't go to the store until like 1969. I was too young. I mean, in terms of going alone to a store that was like a block away. So I wouldn't know for sure. But I did notice that all of a sudden I couldn't afford to buy potato chips. That's what I noticed. Because I was able to pay 5 cents for a bag of potato chips then, and when they changed the price, I never purchased a large one. I was just a little tiny little 4-year-old. And then I never purchased a large one. It was too large. And then what they did have was they had something called like sticks, which was like potato sticks. That was always 10 cents because it came in a large bag. And it wasn't a large bag, it was a small bag that was packed solid with potato sticks. I would buy that one and I would share it with like friends and my sister. But I never purchased I might have purchased a large bag of potato chips once in a blue moon, and that would last me twice as long. So what I'm saying is, they might have changed the price of the potato chips from a small to a large, and taken some of the chips out and sold it for 15 cents, like I originally said. Or they might have kept it full, like it used to be, and changed it to 25 cents. So when I say it was, they either changed it for 15, 20, and 25 cents, what I'm saying is that if they changed it to 15 cents, they didn't give you a full bag anymore. But if they changed it to 25 cents, then they did. But the problem is that with the potato chips, everybody, and I mean everybody, noticed. That's what everybody was saying. They're saying the people were saying they were grabbing the potato chips that used to always have a full bag. The bag used to fit the amount of stuff that was filled. Always, they never had space in the bag like they do today. And then originally what happened when they started changing the prices, people started to notice that the bag wasn't filled up anymore with potato chips. And there was all this space in it. But when you used to buy a small bag of potato chips for 5 cents, it was a small bag, but it was packed full. And so what they did was, they were playing around with the bag sizes and changing the prices. And so that's why I'm confused. I guess they did that on purpose to confuse everyone, that we would not notice the prices would change. So what they might have done was they might have taken the small bags and just put less in it and double the price, but I don't think people would want to pay double. Or maybe what they were doing was they were putting less and less in it until they were putting so little in it that people didn't want it, but they were putting less in it at the same time they were raising the price. So the question is, I know they had the small bag for a while, and they were putting less in it, and they alleviated you from getting less chips by changing it to the larger bag with the small bag. But what they did was, a large bag used to be 10 cents, and then they made the large bag 25 cents. So taking into consideration everything I said about getting less chips in it, that was what was going on. They were playing around with less chips first. And all of a sudden, they no longer had the small bag, they had the large bag, and the large bag quickly went into 25 cents, and the other one is confusing to me about the price and the size, because to me, I always thought the large bag was the large bag, but they had a family bag that was 59 cents, but they never had these big, giant, vast, superhuman, gargantuous potato chip sized bags that came out in the 70s, like the late, like I don't know, what year did they come out? They might have came out in 1970s. No, probably they came out like maybe like 78. They started to come out like 1978, 1979, 1980 with the big gulp, and they used to have these like 3-liter huge Coca-Colas back. They don't exist anymore, but back in around 1979, 1976, and they came out with these super huge Coca-Cola bottles, just like overnight. I know they had 2-liter ones. I don't know. They had these Coca-Cola bottles, these big giant tops on them. These soda bottles were so big. It was like I don't know, like I can't like a large one used to be like on the Coca-Cola. A normal large one used to be like I don't know, a 64 ounce, right? A large Coke was 64 ounces for a large, and then 32 ounces. But later they started lowering the amount that you would get by changing it to liters, because liters would give you less than ounces. But sometime in 1976 they came out with the big gulp. And it wasn't a big hit until like 1980. And then 1976 they also came out with the size of Coca-Cola and larger packaging of potato chips, and the prices of potato chips would be less when you bought large ones. They just, I don't know why, it just was. And then, if you can get a super large one then for like $1, and because potatoes are cheap, but the Coca-Cola had the same thing going on. You could buy a super large one cheap, and the super large one became larger than 64 ounces. It was like, how large was it? It was like unreal. It was like, believe it or not, I think it was twice the size of a 64 ounce. It was like super large. I don't know if it was to make sense out of it all, it might have been just 32 ounces larger than the 64 ounce. However many ounces that is, I'm not able to think right now. Because the fan is on behind me because I don't use air conditioning. So what happened to me when I was working on that area with Cooper Street in Brooklyn, I was exposed to radiation and I was getting weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker, and then um, I had to start in the last few years walking as an exercise, because if you ride a bicycle, you end up. I'm not saying riding a bicycle isn't good. If you're riding a bicycle and you're pedaling, it's good. But if you're riding a bicycle and it's not a fixie, and you're in the New York City area, you could just roll. And a lot of people who ride bikes now use it like a car because they're electric. And riding a bicycle, if you're just not pedaling and you're rolling, you're putting a lot of pressure on your arms, and it makes you feel dizzy. Or if you get, when you're sitting on a bicycle, when I was super skinny, it was different, but I'm able to ride a bicycle. That's not a problem. It's just that it's not exercising if you're rolling, and if you start leaning on your arms, which is the kind of bikes I ride, and it's just rolling and you're leaning on your arms get tired. So if you're riding a bike a lot and you're using a fixie, then it's a little different. But when you walk around, even if you walk slowly, it's more therapeutic because you're using your calf muscles to pump blood. If you're riding a bicycle and you're pedaling, it's exercising, yes. Problem is, in New York City, you can't always keep pedaling because of all the bumps in the road, especially now with the doing all the pavement and stuff. And even before that, I wasn't able to ride a bicycle because they put out all those bike lanes, and I can't ride like that because it traps you into hitting the potholes unless you don't obey the rules. When you ride around the potholes and you're able to use the bike lane if you know the terrain, and as long as you don't hit the potholes. Because the kind of bikes that I ride are fragile. They're like race bikes. They cannot take the potholes. No, the potholes are bad. So anyway, the bicycle thing is related to the radiation thing, related to can be related to breathing problems. Most of the breathing problems that I got was from, if you use an air conditioner in the house and you close the door, it's very bad for your lungs. And it has taken me my own trial and error to figure out what the problem was with that. Stop doing that. I don't even use the air conditioner anymore because it's bad for me, and I don't care if it's hot. That was one of the things that everybody always knew about me, that I wore a jacket all the time because I was hurting my back to keep my wallet in my pocket when I was driving the tow bikes. It was always hurting my spine when I had a wallet in my pocket. So I started keeping all my junk not in my pocket, and I would have a biker wallet with a chain on it, and I had like a secret compartment in my jacket where I could put my wallet so I wouldn't lose it. And then people ask me, why are you wearing this? Oh, they would say, oh, it's real cold out today, isn't it, trucker? And I'm like, what are you talking about? It's like 100 degrees out. Oh, then, all right. So then, why are you wearing a jacket? It doesn't bother me to wear a jacket. I don't care. You know, it's 100 degrees out. So the jacket keeps the sun off of me. You're not running around walking. It probably won't bother you, but when I walk around at 2 o'clock in the morning, I like wearing some kind of a jacket. It's better for you. It's safer for you. It does get cold out at night. It's more protection for you. And if you're I'm not at a beach, but if you go to a beach in the summertime, it's cold. You need to wear a jacket. I learned my lessons early when I was like 16 years old. I went to sleep on a beach and it was so cold out, and I don't think I had a jacket. And I just had a t-shirt probably and a towel. And me and my friend went to go to Asbury Park, and we didn't want to pay for the hotel because we were just little kids. Not little kids, we were teenagers. Okay, so I was like, I know you're thinking little kids, and then you're thinking teenagers. No, I was like 14 years old. And we used to be badass, so we used to rent the hotel when we were like kids. We used to drink alcohol and rent hotels when we were just teenagers. We were like badass kids, and I don't even know how old I was at this point. I think it was probably the most I was I think I was 16. Okay, so let's just say it's 16 years old. Went to Asbury Park by bus, and we used to go to the liquor store since you only had to be 18 to get liquor back then. And I was 16, but I looked older because I was always hanging out on the street. So I looked 18, and we did the same thing with the hotel, I guess. We lied until we were 18. So anyway, we're hanging out on the beach, and the police told us can't sleep on the beach or on a park bench. Those are the rules. You go to jail if they catch you sleeping on the beach. That's how they were protecting people from not paying for hotels. We were thinking, but if you look at it now, that's how they were protecting the beach from having homeless people, right? And I mean, trying not to pay for the hotel for one night. Anyway, so it was cold and windy in the August. So making fun out of me for wearing a jacket. Many times it has all of a sudden become cold out in the summer in many places. I'm wearing a jacket right now. It's July, and I'm not using a blanket, and I have the fan on me. And without the jacket, it's too cold with the fan blowing on me to be able to. Cold air can injure your organs. That's the first rule of survival. So anyway, I started rambling on about the chips. That's not what I was originally intending to talk about. I was going to talk about my brother and how we were going to go visit my sister. And I'm the type of person that has a certain type of methodical methods of doing things, which is basically 4 o'clock in the morning, get out of New York City as fast as you can, because of the traffic. Right? So now he doesn't have that methodical. So we went to 7-Eleven wherever he chose to go. And I don't know why, when I walked in the door, I was waiting for him to get gas. I'm like a super sensitive type person. So when all of a sudden somebody else is walking into 7-Eleven, I just back off. I don't want them holding the door for me or making it look like I'm walking in with them. I don't want any of that stuff. And my brother walks faster than me, so when he walks in, he puts on a whole production. This part is very important because it catches the attention of the clerk in the store. It's the most important part of the whole story about me, how I walk into a store or don't want to. All those things have an effect on me and the people who work there and other people around me because I'm trying to separate myself from them and not to walk in like, like, I don't know, like blind. So I didn't have any reason to walk into 7-Eleven other than to, to make the coffee, which is why I would go in. But my brother wanted to buy some oil for his car, and he was asking me which one to get. And so what happened was, he held the door open for me, but the person in the store didn't know that I was with him for some reason. He was too stupid to see that my brother was getting gas at the gas station and he spent like more than $30 in gas on a credit card. The guy was like really that sick. And then I walked into the store and I was on one side of the aisle and my brother was on the other side. So the guy thought immediately that it wasn't together. And for some reason the guy who said he was the manager started picking on me. And the guy said, "Put it back." And he looked like the guy that was on that show from Little House on the Prairie when they had that other show with the two angels on it, and they had this TV show about the two angels, and one of them was the father from the Little House on the Prairie. Well, he looked like the other guy. What was the name of that show? There was that show. You can't hear. Oh no. Yeah, my phone is broken. Alright, so I'm gonna talk into the phone. So they had that show, and the guy looked like the guy from 7-Eleven, the manager. He looked like the guy from that TV show I was saying, which is weird. He looked like that. Heaven Can Wait. Remember that show? In the 80s? It was the guy from Little House on the Prairie and the other guy. And he started picking on me. And he said, "Put it back." And even that line sounded like the guy from the show Heaven Can Wait. I had no idea what he was talking about. And I'm like thinking, what? He said, "Put it back." And I was like, I'm not the kind of guy to ask questions. And like, huh? He's like, put it back, and he's showing like putting on sunglasses with his like making like hand gestures for putting on. So I have a photographic memory, by the way, so I can see this visually inside my head. And he's putting on like sunglasses, showing he's putting on sunglasses, and I'm like, I don't have a clue. And he's like, keeps doing that thing with the sunglasses on. I don't know what he's talking about. And then he did it like many times, more than 8 times. He showed putting on stuff. And then finally he said, put back the sunglasses. So in his mind, he thinks I had taken sunglasses and I had not left the store yet, so I had not stolen them yet. I don't even know what he's talking about. I just walked in. I was only in the store for like 30 seconds or less when he started doing that. And I walked by the sunglasses, but I didn't even stop. And then, why is this such a big production? Why am I talking about this? Yeah, because something big happened here. And then the guy, I said, what do you want? Why do you keep asking me? I said, you lost your sunglasses. Go ahead. You can pass me. You go look for them. And then he said, no, no. And he pointed me out. He said, you stole the sunglasses. I said, I stole the sunglasses. I didn't steal anything. And I said, go check your camera. And he wouldn't let me leave the store is what happened. But what was more shocking than that, because that doesn't bother me. I didn't steal anything. So I can leave the store if I really wanted to. What was bothering me was, first, my brother was on my side, which was fine. But I was just waiting for the guy to move away from the door, because I'm not going to move towards someone who's blocking the door and get into what I call as the martial artist friction, or what you call as a police would call it, an assault. And you don't move towards somebody without expecting them to attack you. So I didn't move towards him. And so basically, I don't know, I said something to him because he started telling me how he's going to kick my ass. And I said, he was like, you ever see somebody who thinks because you're letting them get away with murder, all of a sudden they start opening up and starting to like rant and say how powerful they are, and it becomes ridiculous. That's what was going on. He was saying nonsense. This is what he was saying. You can judge it yourself. But this is what he was saying to me. He said he was being a manager for a very long time. Nobody ever steals from him because he's very sharp, and he's just throwing these little rants in there, little twists, like a roller coaster, that he's very strong and nobody could steal from him. And I was like, realizing that he was bigger than I thought he was. And then he thought more of himself than he did. Like, he wasn't a small guy, that's for sure. But I wasn't looking for a fight with him. But even a small guy can be very powerful, like that guy Manny, the welterweight fighter. I mean, he could punch, like, really knock anyone out. But this guy was, I don't know, large, I guess. And then, but he was saying all kinds of stuff. I mean, I have muscles, and he doesn't. And he was saying how tough he was and stuff like that. I work out, not with. I work out with weights, but I don't do muscle pumping up. I do like I lift weights in a different way, just like I'll show you one day. Anyway, so he kept like pushing me too far, pushing the, what's the terminology that they use? Pushing the something. I don't know. I don't make things up, and I don't Google things, because that's not. First of all, I can't Google things when I'm on the phone like this, but I just don't. I don't like to do that. I do sometimes when I really can't remember something, but that terminology, pushing the something, not the red line thing, but pushing the whatever. I don't remember exactly. It's not something basic. It's not pushing the issue. But anyway, so he was pushing all my buttons. Maybe that's it. And so I just exploded. I said, well, I was being sarcastic, so I didn't like explode the other way. I just exploded being sarcastic. I said, well, you're telling me how you're going to kick my ass and how strong you are. I said, but the only problem is you don't have any muscles. And I just kept on that line for a while. I said, you're gonna kick my ass and everything like that, but the only problem is that you don't have any muscles. So good luck. And then eventually that wore him down, and he got scared and he walked away. Because I told him, I said, as soon as you throw a punch at me, you're gonna find out who kicks whose ass. I said, I know you're saying you're gonna kick my ass. I said, but as soon as you begin the process of kicking my ass, I'm gonna knock you out. And so then anyway, um, he finally got sick of his own bullshit and he walked away from the front door. So I walked out. And then my brother started acting weird. And my brother said, where are you going? Remember I said my brother sounds like Boo Boo? And there's something mentally off about him. There's nothing mentally off about everyone. But anyway, look, where are you going? I'm like, are you stupid? Come on, let's go. No, I don't want to go. Let's wait for the police. He said, I don't want to wait for the police. Why not? What are you, stupid? I don't want to wait for the police. I'm not going to tell you why on the internet. Why? Because there's a reason why. But anyway, I said, what are you, stupid? I said, come on, let's go. And then he gets in his car and he won't open the door. The guy's taking pictures of me and my brother's car's license plate. And I'm looking at my brother, and he's just not opening the door. And normally I wouldn't say anything, but the guy's like coming at me. I go, are you going to open the door or not? Because the guy's astigmatism, he's creating me to say something. Because if you don't open the door, the guy's going to come at me a second time. I'm like, what are you, stupid? I just walked out of the store, and then my brother's like, wait for the police. What do you mean, wait for the police? And so then we were going to visit my sister in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and the whole ride there, which is like 3 hours easy, my brother's accusing me of stealing sunglasses, and even I seen him going through the car looking for them under the seat. He's really out of his fucking mind. Like all of a sudden he just like rage inside of himself when I was in my sister's house, and all of a sudden he's like opening the door, looking. Fucking, he's probably going through my stuff because I had my own bag, and he's an asshole. He's probably going through my stuff. And the whole fucking ride back, he's like, you stole the sunglasses. I said, no, I didn't. Yes, you did. Now, this is a game I don't play when someone goes, yes, you did. I hate that. He's like, you stole the sunglasses. I'm like, no, I didn't. Yes, you did. I don't like it when someone talks while it's my sentence at the same time. You know how much weight that puts on your sentence? It's just structurally, I talk light to begin with. If somebody's going to do that to me, it's just too disgusting. It's like, you're saying your sentence that I stole the sunglasses, and then you're saying, when I'm saying my sentence, you're saying, yes, you did. Anyway, I have to get up to stand up because I can't lie down anymore. I'll tell you the rest of the story later. I hope you can hear me on this phone. There's something wrong with it. I think somehow the microphone got damaged from me walking around in the rain, and I either have to get a new phone or I have to get this microphone changed, because I was able to get it to work a little bit, but a few days ago it didn't work at all. And the speakerphone works, but the microphone is like this. And I already cleaned it out, and I can't fix it any more than this on my own. And the place that fixes the phones is a pain in the ass, and it's not near my house. So anyway, that's it for now.